Hello, and thank you for joining me on this episode of In the Trenches. Our guest today is a celebrity fashion stylist whom I've had the pleasure of working alongside on many of my big jobs. But before she got into music, her backstory in fashion editorial in New York City, working with some of the biggest photographers in the game, it's so impressive. I cannot wait for y'all to hear. But before we get into the episode, I'm gonna remind y'all, please like and subscribe, follow. If you're digging the material, help get it out to folks. The numbers seem to really matter. So, without any further ado, Katy Robbins. Thank you for joining me, Katy.
I'm happy to be here. In the trenches.
We are in the trenches. Yeah, thank you. It took me a while though to come up with a name. I actually say that all the time. I years leading up to even starting a name for a podcast, I always said it as I was raised very militantly. I trained to be a Navy SEAL. So for some reason, that's
Have I
been
worked
in
with
my
you as
world.
many times as I have, and I had no idea.
Yeah.
We're going to learn a lot about each other today.
You can feel free to ask anything. Absolutely. I trained to be a Navy SEAL for 7 years. Yeah, and I was nationally ranked tennis player from California. Most people don't know that. So I grew up playing tennis and training to be a Navy SEAL.
That is wild.
Yeah.
I grew up raised to be a music publisher, but thinking I was going to be an orthopedic surgeon.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Hendersonville, Tennessee. Where
Right
we
where you
are right this second.
Really? I didn't know that. So you grew up, so this wasn't even here. This was a field.
Yep.
Where
I
in
think
Hendersonville?
a guy I went to high school with might have developed this, might have built these houses. Yeah.
That's great. So what part of Hendersonville did you, the lake, I guess?
Started out Indian Lake area and then Bluegrass Drive.
Oh yeah. We almost moved to Bluegrass.
Yep. Last house on the cove.
Oh wow.
On
There's
the lake.
We call it the loud ass barking dog house that we didn't buy. It was a great house, but there was a dog on a close proximity to something.
Yes.
And we were there to look at it, and it was just like a rat jumping on the fence. Like, good God.
Yeah.
And it literally stopped us from buying the house.
Well, I'm very glad that you heard that dog.
Yes. Anyway.
It's like hearing the loud neighbors in New York City, like you go in and you just hear people walking and you're like, nope, can't live here. No. Or I'm going to need 3 white noise machines a night.
Yeah. Actually, that's working so much in New York as a young filmmaker doing videos is why today I sleep with a machine of noise because I had to sleep with a noise machine in New York City.
Yeah.
Funny, I just digress. You worked there a lot, right? Or you?
Yes. I mean, I was based in New York for over 10 years. So I moved to New York. That's how I got my start. See, we're going to learn so much about each other.
Well, let's go back, though.
That we don't get to learn
We
when
were
on
in
set.
Hendersonville for a second. Yes, exactly.
I know.
Hendersonville. So orthopedic surgeon, right?
That's what I thought I wanted to be. Okay. After one biology class at Emory, I was like, don't think that's going to happen.
No, that requires a different side of the brain I do not want to activate.
So let's go to art history and Italian studies. Yes. But it does come full circle eventually because I really wanted to help girls with, or boys too, but mostly girls with scoliosis. I had scoliosis growing up, which is also kind of a big part of, I think, why I became a stylist. So fast forward.
I want to hear.
Yes.
Do say.
So, okay. Grew up in Hendersonville, Tennessee. My dad was a songwriter. I wanted nothing to do with country music. I was listening to The Cure, Jane's Addiction, The Doors.
Jane Says was one of
my gosh.
my high school freshman. I don't know what it was, but my anthem.
I mean, nothing shocking. Still one of my favorite records.
Yep.
I just hear it do.
Even if you left right now on a phone call, you had to leave. I'd be like, that was so worth it. Now that I see Katy all the time, be like, we jam out to Jane's Addiction. Anyway.
Okay. So, oh my gosh. Well, what do you want? The long, the short?
Long.
I can't do short,
Long.
but I'll try.
Long.
Hendersonville, Tennessee. Grew up surrounded by country music, around the corner on the lake from Johnny Cash, and didn't really appreciate it. You know, I was like, I don't even like country music except for my dad's songs that he writes. You know,
see as Johnny Cash.
Yes. I mean, literally. And you'd see Johnny Cash he would pull up to the Baskin Robbins with Bono in the car to the drive-thru. I mean, just like the coolest stuff would happen here. And it would all be because of Johnny Cash. And I thought that was cool. And we'd go cliff jumping off of his and like, you know, do bad things on the cliffs next to his house, you know.
I've seen those clips actually, yeah.
But yes, but I wanted nothing to do with it. So I ran like, you know, my hair was on fire to New York City. But this was after going to college in Atlanta, thinking I was going to be a doctor.
Whoa, so wait, you didn't go all through med school, did you?
No, God, no. No. I took one biology class and switched majors freshman year.
Okay. I think that was me too, actually.
I'm getting ahead of myself though. So, but it does all, I think, so much of what I do and what I'm now considered good at has to do with the fact that I was diagnosed with scoliosis when I was 12. And so here I was in Hendersonville, Tennessee, going into 7th grade, where it's like you want to be cool, you know, you want to look good, you want to look like everyone. You care more about how you look than you ever do in your life, I think, in like middle school.
Sure.
And I was like 5'8", freakishly skinny, you know, the perm, the braces. And all of a sudden it was like, you have to wear a big plastic contraption on your body, you know, a big Boston brace, not the kind that sticks out here, but like, you know, being like a size 2, probably suddenly having to wear size 10, 12 clothes to cover it. And the only good thing about it was my mom would take me shopping all the time because nothing fit. Like I had to have clothes to cover it and try to figure out my own style. And I always loved clothes and fashion. And you know, I would like subscribe to Vogue and Harper's Bazaar when I was in middle school and like loved going to the end of the driveway and the new Harper's Bazaar came, you know, flipping through it. And here I was, oops, I'm making noise.
Yeah.
I'm making all my accessories are making noise. And here I was suddenly having to wear this huge piece of plastic and hating it and having to cover it and figure out how to like look and feel cool, which is all you want to do in 7th grade. Sure. When I couldn't wear what everyone else was wearing, you know? Yeah. So I think that looking back, when people have asked me like, what made you get into styling other than loving playing dress up and really being into, you know, thinking clothes were cool, it was the back brace.
That's very insightful too, by the way. Well, I did have that question. Where was it in your life that like you made that distinct right or left turn decision to go into styling? And I think that might have been the catalyst, at least.
Yes, it was, but I had no idea till like 12 years later. But and then I started a fashion column in my middle school newspaper, Katy's Collectibles with K's.
What?
Before the Kardashians took all the K's.
Hey, that's cool.
Where I would talk about where to get cool, interesting accessories in Hendersonville and the Nashville area.
Way ahead. Look at you.
Which is basically, it was like thrift stores, vintage stores, and like there was a little accessories boutique in the karate studio on Main Street just weird things, you know.
That's amazing.
Purse clocks, radio clocks. I mean, clock purses, radio purses. Like I would, you know, it's hilarious. The stuff I would get and they would like photograph for the school newspaper.
Oh my gosh.
Like a purse with a working clock, a purse with a working radio, a purse with a telephone you could plug into the wall and then pick up and use.
So were you filming it when you were doing it?
Oh no, people did. It was just photographs.
Photographs,
and I wasn't doing it. It was the school newspaper.
Because you're my age roughly, so you know there was
school newspaper with a film camera.
See.
Oh, one of my friends sent it to me last year. I posted it on Instagram, like a picture of the black and white Hawkins Commando flash.
Oh, so what took you to New York?
Okay, so I was then raised to be a music publisher and had all my internships in the music business in the summers. But I'm leaving out a big important part. I ended up doing all these music videos, being like a little actor model in Nashville because I came up during the waif time with Kate Moss. It was okay if you weren't 5'10", you could be 5'8". And I wanted to be on set. And so I would get hired to be an actor model for music videos and photo shoots in Nashville. And then they would ask me to bring the clothes. Amazing photographer that kind of never talks about the time he spent in Nashville, Norman Jean Roy.
Love Norman. He's the reason.
He's one of the reasons I am a stylist.
Me as in my style of photography. Okay. Look at my color palette. He
had a studio down on 2nd Avenue in a loft. He would take me in his little Nissan Sentra and drive around to gravel pits and sand pits and weird locations, and I would put on vintage clothes and we would do photo shoots, and then he would ask me to bring clothes for the other girls. Once he saw that I had these cool vintage clothes, he'd ask me to bring clothes for the other models.
So that was during the years, because I did hear that Norman kind of upset a few folks here because he really went hard in the paint. Apparently, I know I never met him, so this is just folklore for that I've heard.
I mean, I haven't seen him since I was a teenager.
Well, that's the point, is that he rapidly did a lot of stuff to build up his portfolio and used a lot of favors and such, so forth, and then just was gone.
Yes.
Oof, like a thief in the night. He was gone forever.
And then PDN 30 Under 30 and never mentions his time in Nashville.
Something to that effect. Yeah, something to that effect.
But he took really amazing photos. And I hand wrote him a letter when I first moved to New York City. And, I'm here now. And remember when you used to ask me to bring clothes to the photo shoots? Well, now I'm a stylist and I'm interning for free at Sex and the City. And I would love to work with you. Never heard anything.
Wow.
And then I started working with his contemporaries and his competitors. Sure. And I was like, how am I getting hired by everyone other than him? I'd be working with, Danny Clinch and Andrew Eccles and Peter Lindbergh. People who were his heroes, and somehow same publications, shooting for the same publications.
You're throwing out mad name bombs. Those are huge. For everyone to know, listeners and watchers, you're mentioning icons in the photography world.
I got very lucky and had great opportunities in New York.
You're blowing my mind.
And busted my butt.
Danny Clinch. Shout out to him. I've never met him,
but
he is. I have his books.
Yes,
signed in there. Much of my work, and it's maybe do a little. I'm going way off my notes now,
but I can totally see the influence. I can absolutely see the influence,
and then see Norman Jean Roy. There's a cinematic, controlled element, a production element, and then there's a music kind of raw vibe element. Those are my two, then you mix in some others, but those are my two major photo influences, inspired by a lot. My work inspired by them a lot.
I've never geeked out so much as the first time I got to shoot with Danny, and he was so gracious, so sweet, so cool. He let his assistant sit down, which, 15 years ago in New York City, none of the big photographers let their assistants sit down. I was like, oh my God, there's an assistant sitting on set. Most people at the time were yelling at their assistants and throwing their cameras at them. And he was, just being totally cool and just appreciative and gracious. Like I said, Danny, I just have to tell you, your John Varvatos campaign with Chris Cornell, I said, when it first came out, I literally went to the bus stop and wrapped my leg around the side of it, and embraced it. He goes, Katy, that's one of the best compliments I've ever gotten. Because his work I just loved so much. And, this is what's so funny is when you and I shot the Zach Brown video, Danny shot the record cover right around the same time.
I was in talks to shoot the album cover. So we shot, by the way, that video for, what was it, Zach Brown's Same Boat.
Yes.
We
talk about it in the trenches. We were in the swamps.
And yes. And for 6 days before that, I was driving around a car with Troy, finding people.
Yes.
Some of the stories
strangest, most
crazy.
Interesting. Yes. The stuff you did.
Yes, that was a fun one. But we were going to lead into the, it was the day after. We did the video. Yep. Zach and band were flying right from that set.
Yep.
And they had to shoot that next day.
Yes.
They had to.
Yep, because I had to fly the same day as them from our video shoot. And there's no way you could have been set up and done and ready to do a
That's
full
it.
day
That's it. So
all over the place.
That's it. So they had to bring in, so knowing that, I just had to dip out, and it became Danny's, which he crushed it. And I mean,
I forgot that was literally back-to-back days. I didn't sleep for like days during that because we traveled so much doing stuff with them.
I love their styling.
8 dudes.
Eight
dudes.
8. That's a hard photo shoot too, but I love the cover, talk about styling. It's
he's naked.
How did that come about? Danny Clint should be the one styling, but you were there, so.
Oh gosh, I mean, it started.
Because the cover is Zach Brown, shirtless in a river, on his property. So
in
Georgia, yeah.
We did shoot a wet shirt version of it.
Okay.
So he did have a white Tom Ford button-up shirt clinging to his body. I have a strange thing that now a lot of people will know about. I love shooting guys fully clothed, totally wet.
Yeah, it's a good look. You see the curve, everything.
Yes, the rain. If it's in the rain, if it's in the shower, if it's in a bathtub or a swimming pool. I've done so many videos. Wait, didn't we do one together with someone in the pouring down rain? You did one of the videos with Michael Ray. The Michael Ray.
Get Her Back was raining.
The one. I thought we did one with him raining together. Eric Church on the cover of Rolling Stone in a swimming pool. Travis Denning just recreating a fun 90s video look in the rain.
Parker McCollum, I'm sure you've got.
Parker,
I'm sure the ladies haven't minded seeing Parker's
yes. Well, we set him on fire and we put him in the rain.
Where was that fire video shot at?
Outside of Albuquerque on a Native American reservation.
Tell me about that. So getting styling and all that out there had to be real easy, right?
That was my only concern was getting the clothes that reeked of lighter fluid through airport security because I needed to have variations on the burnt up shirt and I just burnt it in my own fire pit. I was like, I don't want to pretend burn this. I want to really have it be burned. But, it was also the night before leaving to go out to Albuquerque.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I was literally in a fire, just set a fire with lighter fluid and was just burning shirts, and on with the director, with Dustin Haney.
Yeah.
Have you had him on?
No, but he's slated to be on. I'm excited to get him on.
Oh, yes. So was showing him the various, here's 4 different degrees of burnt. Here's one that I kind of burnt too much. Here's one that's not, it's sort of Goldilocks.
Yeah.
So, yes, that was my only concern was getting everything out there through security without them thinking I had an explosive device or something.
Yeah, because it all smells of
fluid. It smelled pretty bad. And then it was stuff for the whole band. And then Hillary Lindsay, one of the most amazing female songwriters of our time, who co-wrote the song and sang backup. So she was in the video too, doing the female backup part. So that was just a whole shebang. And my assistant Marina and I just packed it all up and went out to Albuquerque and had a big time. Oh, that's the only time I've forgotten my own clothes. So I had clothes for Parker plus 7. Wait, no, not. I said 8. I think I did. I never do that, but I was literally wearing a Parker McCollum t-shirt.
You were wired in. You were doing it.
Yes, with my airplane pants. That because that's all I had. I wore the same thing for a couple of days out in the desert without my desert gear,
Yeah.
Maybe how many guys was it? I think it was only 6 guys, 5 or 6 guys plus Hillary plus Parker. But it was great. There was this amazing crew and the pyro guy from Kiss who used to tour with Kiss did the pyrotechnics. And, I was very happy that someone else had to put all the flammable stuff all over his Lucchese boots and set them on fire. And I just got to watch from afar.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you always want to work with celebs? Because, you kind of came up through New York on those worlds. It was, versus fashion. I mean,
yes.
Fashion is celebs too in a different way, but it's a different market, a different
style. I am more style. What I realized early on is I'm more into the style and the person's individual style than the fashion side. So I digress, or I fast forward. I don't know. So how it all happened was I ended up realizing, after I don't want to be a doctor, I don't want to be a music publisher, even though that's what my family wanted me to do, and my internships were in music publishing. And
it's a departure.
Yes. And I had to take a good hard look. I had a offer to go work for one of my mentors in the music business, Karen Conrad, who was the head of BMG Publishing at the time, offered me a gig out of college to be a song plugger, which is like a beginning music publisher. And I had to talk to my parents and say, this is not what I want to do. I need
How old were you?
21.
Yeah. Turned down a job. Yeah.
I want to go do something where I can be on set. I loved being on set. I knew that, like, having done those music videos and commercials in Nashville growing up, I just loved doing it. And I had to go out to LA, but all I knew how to do was be like the actor. And I had no business doing this, but I went out to LA because I was like, this is all I've done that I've actually enjoyed. Looking back, it wasn't acting. It was being on set.
Sure.
But I had been paid to act. So I went out there to act, and I effing hated it. I hated being looked at and picked apart. I hated being on camera. I hated being in front of people. It was terrible. It was miserable. And I got on the phone with my best friend from high school, Amy Dickerson, who is an amazing photographer. I left this part out. In high school, we would do photo shoots for fun in Hendersonville. I'd be like, let's go on my dad's sailboat and do like a J. Crew inspired shoot.
Wow.
Let's go out with our friends and do this kind of shoot. Let's go and like do a 70s inspired
Very
shoot.
imaginative mind, but you're very inventive too.
Yeah, when Amy D, I call her Amy D. Amy Dickerson was a huge influence. She was a year older than me. When we became friends, it was like a whole new world opened up. She worked at the Walden Books and she got discounts on fashion books. She had every fashion book imaginable. We would sit in her room and just like pour through fashion photography books. And she really helped open my eyes to all different kinds of beauty, not just Linda Evangelista on the cover of Harper's Bazaar. We loved that too, but like the portraiture. And she ended up being an amazing celebrity portraiture photographer. And we would just do photo shoots for fun. So cut to, I'm in LA 2 years after college. My mom's going, Katy, what, you're a cocktail waitress? Like, and I'm like, I'm moving to New York. And she goes, to do what? Like, we sent you to Emory and what are you going to do? And I'm like, well, I'm going to intern for free in the wardrobe department of Sex and the City and be a bartender, which is what I did. I moved to New York City, realizing I had said to Amy D, like, I know you want to move there. She was in New Orleans. We moved together for her to pursue the next step in her portraiture photography and for me to do something related to it. I didn't know what. And I just had this quarter life crisis at 25 and was like, what am I good at? Like, I remember being out in the Hamptons on my 25th birthday, pouring down rain on the 4th of July and just crying because I wasn't a doctor. I wasn't a music publisher. Nothing I had been good at or praised for or done well at was going to work for me anymore. Sorry, I just hit the microphone.
Oh, you're fine.
It didn't matter that I did well in school and got straight A's. I didn't want to go be an art history professor because I ended up double majoring in art history and Italian. It didn't matter that I had internships in the music business and my connections were in music publishing. My father had tragically passed away senior year of college, and I could have still taken over his music publishing company, but that was really the deciding factor. We just passed it off to people who really knew what they were doing. It didn't matter. None of those connections mattered or experience mattered. I wasn't an actor. Like I was sitting there at 25 being like, all my friends from Emory are either like halfway through med school, have their MBAs, they're in law school and graduating already. Like what have I accomplished? All I figured out is what I don't want to do. What am I good at? And I had been an extra on Sex and the City. And they ask you when you come to be an extra on the TV show Sex and the City, they're like, bring 3 options. First half of the day, you're going to be a lady who lunches. Bring 3 pastel options, Upper East Side lady who lunch. Bring those clothes. Second half of the day, you're going to be a club kid in, Lower East Side or something. bring black and red, or this color and, stuff you can wear. And so I'd bring my stuff. I'd be all excited to bring all my clothes. And the wardrobe people would be like, you could wear any of those. Can we borrow that for this chick? And I was like, okay. But then I was mad because I didn't get to go to the wardrobe truck. The people who had crappy clothes got to go and hang out with the wardrobe people. And I had this thing at 25, my quarter life crisis, going, is this a talent? Like, what am I good at? And everything I've been good at, I don't want to do or pursue in life. I just don't. What is this? But I've always been into fashion. I've always, like, people will say, well, we want this look, and I can create it out of, go find what they need. People have always asked me what they should wear. My friends have always wanted me to dress them. But really it was that Sex and the City experience that made me go, is this a talent? And I was styling shoots for Amy D for her shoots, not even knowing I was doing it. So my best friend, the photographer that we moved out together to New York, I was already styling shoots, not knowing that what I was doing was called styling. So I was like, I think this is what I'm good at. And how can this be a talent? I don't sew, I don't design, just hearing.
You were overthinking it, huh?
Of course. I mean, yeah.
Yes. But you were young, and so you didn't necessarily know either.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. I decided, after spending my 25th birthday crying about not knowing what I was doing with my life, I was like, well, it has something to do with clothes. So I reached out to everyone I knew who had anything to do with fashion. People who are buyers at Saks, people who are costume designers for movies, anyone who had anything to do with the business. And a friend who was a publicist, she was a publicist assistant, was like, wow, I just met this stylist who said she'd had 7 assistants in 7 months and she couldn't find anyone good. And I told her, like, you should probably meet her. And, so here's her, info, send you her resume, or, send her your resume. So I sent this woman my resume, and then I was bartending at a place called Flute, a champagne lounge in New York. And one of the girls there was interning in the production department of Sex and the City. Okay. And she said, hey, Katy, they fired all their unpaid interns except one because they all suck and they wouldn't show up or they wouldn't do a good job. Do you want to go work for free at Sex and the City? And I remember being in New Orleans on a shoot with Amy D. Remember, I was already styling shoots, but didn't know that's what it was called. I was just bringing the clothes for my friends' photo shoots. And at a cafe, and sitting there on the computer and typing up a cover letter to Patricia Field, one of the biggest costume designers of all time, one of the most influential. She did all the costumes for Sex and the City. She made the clothes another character, in Sex and the City. And just being like, and, a couple of years ago, I was a extra, and you asked me if you could borrow my clothes for someone else. Like, now I'm so excited to be an intern. And I went and interned for free. Yeah. They gave me a Metro card and bought my lunch, and then I'd go bartend at night. Through that, I met other people and almost went to work at Teen Vogue, turned down a job at Teen Vogue because this woman, who my publicist friend, so my publicist, Bianca Bianconi, she was just an assistant at the time. She's now huge publicist, like president of a huge PR firm, has the biggest clients. And she was the one who said, I met this stylist who had 7 assistants in 7 months. Send her your resume. So I'm at Sex and the City working for free. I get a call from this woman being like, Catherine. And I'm like, yes, because my full name is Catherine, but I was like, I thought I put Katy on my resume, but whatever. I need you tomorrow at Pier 59 Studios. I need you for the week for Victoria's Secret. And I was like, okay. And I went to the head of the costume department.
I'm seeing Devil Wears Prada right now.
It was Devil Wears Prada before Devil Wears Prada came out. Was my life for the next year. I suddenly was thrown into Victoria's Secret. Russell James was shooting it. He had literally, I went into the studio. It's Heidi, Tyra, Giselle, the big Victoria's Secret models. Adriana and Alessandra were the baby models. I'm there trying to learn the difference between a boy short and a tap pant and a tanga, going through all this, and all these people are coming to set. Hello, ciao, ciao, ciao. It's like the biggest hair and makeup people speaking all these languages. There's music blaring. It's Pier 59, the big studio, Pier 59. I'm going through the rack just being like, okay, got to figure out which underwear is which so I can put the right ones on them, Inga, oh God, her name is Inga. She had barely told me anything. She'd kind of thrown me into it and I just had to learn. And someone taps me on the shoulder and be like, hey, where's Adriana? And I turn around and look down and it's Lenny Kravitz. He was dating Adriana Lima at the time. And I'm like, she's in there, but you can't go through, they're naked. And he just walks in and everyone's like, Lenny, and mwah, mwah, mwah. And I'm like, where am I? What is going on?
Sounds like a movie.
And then I was like, this is what I want to do.
Sure.
I was just like, this is so cool. And after a week, Inga was like, how attached are you to your bartending job and your unpaid internship at Sex and the City? And I was like, they told me you were going to take me away from Sex and the City, but they said they were okay with it. And I was like, I'm not attached at all. And she goes, come work for me. Full-time freelance. You work when I say you're going to work. You don't work when we don't work. You know, it's going to be in a different place every week. And like, and she just threw me in. And literally the next week we were in LA. Then it was like, you know, then you're in Miami shooting. Then you're in St. Bart's. And I was like, this is so beautiful. But I would, you know, shooting with Antoine Verglaze. And we're shooting from 6 a.m. till sundown. And, you know, then you have to go to dinner with the whole crew and stay out till 2 a.m. and then like go back to your room and steam all the clothes and organize them and sleep for 2 hours and then start all over again. And I was like, this is the life.
The abnormalness of it,
Yeah.
the untraditionalness of it. Like, yeah, you can sleep 12 hours when it's time to sleep
Yes.
12 hours.
Yes. You can enjoy St. Bart's some other time.
Exactly. But you're going to be deficient 12 hours of
Yes.
sleep while
Yes.
you're here. You know, yeah, wow, I did not know any of this, Katy.
Yeah. So I did that for a year and then and I was like,
I'm enthralled, by the way. So keep talking. I'm sorry if I'm not interrupting. I'm just like listening. I'm imagining a movie in my mind. Hamptons, where you had this is like, what?
This was my 20s, you know? So I was with
my
Inga.
20s was good. Jesus.
But it was hard too, you know?
Well,
I
of
mean, like I
course.
was not sleeping,
No.
getting practically beaten and abused, but learning from an amazing, amazing stylist who had amazing relationships. She was great on set with people. And I really learned how to do it. You know, she may have just thrown a pile of receipts at me. I didn't learn the business part, but the how to do it, like, you know, how to make the clothes look good, how to make the client feel good, how to make sure everyone is taken care of. Even just like, hey, we need to make sure to have client gifts for everyone.
Yes.
You know, like I'm using my discount at Prada to get stuff for, you know, like she kind of showed me how to be a stylist in that part of the world, because we had or that part of the styling world. So she did Victoria's Secret, but she also did Demi Moore at Super A-list. Catherine Zeta-Jones, the year she was pregnant and won the Oscar.
Actresses and actors.
Oh, it was all
Entertainment.
celebrity. You know, I'd go and I remember walking in to bring something to set, and Pierce Brosnan was standing there in his underwear, and I was like, oh, just trying to be cool, you know. It was a different celebrity every day, and it was just so interesting being kind of around, you know, everything that was going on in pop culture.
Sure.
And she didn't have a boss. She worked with all these different people all the time. And that's when I was like, this is what I want to do. Because before I did that with her, I didn't know stylists existed. Until that time, people were like, you know, until a few years before that, people were still dressing themselves for red carpets. Like
Sure.
there weren't
Yeah, they were leaving their house.
there weren't that many stylists yet, you know. Stylists were still mainly doing like magazine covers and stuff. And so working with her was like, wow, you could dress celebrities and everyone is different and their bodies are all different and their styles are all different and the projects
vibes.
are all different. And it was never boring and I loved it. So on my time off, because she had another assistant that we would sometimes we'd be working together, sometimes we'd switch off. On my time off, I would just do shoots. Every photographer's assistant was an up-and-coming photographer, of course. So we would do like test shoots together or like stay in Miami an extra day and go from the Shore Club, which was like super fancy and fabulous, across the street to the crappy little motel where 4 of us would stay in one room. And I would just like try to pull like cool accessories and we'd go do like a shoot with a Miami model, piggybacked off our days of working with Victoria's Secret, trying to build our portfolios. And I would still be working with Amy D, doing stuff, and then just like anything I could get my hands on. Then, a year into it all, when I thought I'd really found my stride assisting, I thought I'll be ready to go out on my own as a stylist, I bet in 6 months to a year. We're out in LA, and Inga gave me the boot. she said, I don't want to keep you in a cage at Vogue. I don't want to keep you in a cage. Like I was kept in a cage at Vogue for 5 years. You need to go out and do your test shoots with that girl. And I wanted to be like, well, they're record covers with my best friend, Amy D, who I talk about all the time, but okay. And she goes, you're going to thank me for this one day. And I was just blindsided. I was like, oh my God, I have no job. I have no income. Is Victoria's Secret going to still pay for this hotel? Like this is whatever it's called, Shutters on the Beach or whatever.
Shutters, yeah. Santa Monica.
And I was like, I don't know what to do. And everyone was meeting downstairs for drinks. And I went up to my room. I remember I shed a couple of tears and I put some lip gloss on because I had to go. She's like, come meet us for drinks. And I was like, I have to go meet everyone for drinks. And I was like, fuck it. I am a stylist now. I'm going out on my own. I might not be ready, but I'm a stylist. And I literally called everyone I knew after going for the drinks with the crew and was like, I'm out on my own now. Anything, like I will do any shoot, any project. I'll assist anyone. Like literally everyone I knew in any part of the business, I reached out and was like, I've gone out on my own. Hire me for anything. I'm up for it all. And I remember going to the drinks with everyone and, you know, they're like, we can't wait to see you in Jamaica next week. And I'm like, I don't think I'll be seeing you there. And the rest is history. So then I panicked. I freaked out. I thought I'm going to have to go back to bartending, but I started getting my own little gigs and I started assisting some other people. And I would do like little, you know, week to month long stints at W Magazine and W Jewelry and Women's Wear Daily. And at one point I was the only person who knew how to use the program that entered the clothing credits into the magazine. And I'm like, this is weird because I don't even work here. I call it playing office. Yeah, okay. I go into, at the time it was Fairchild Publications, and go like play office at W and then go do my own shoots. And I had a couple of, and I don't know how I even met them. Two amazing British fashion editors, one named Eugenie Hanmer and one named Deborah Brett, who came in from Harper's and Queen, now Harper's Bazaar, in the UK, from the UK, and came in and had me assist them. I assisted each of them only a couple of times, and they started recommending me to people and recommending me to do smaller shoots for Harper's and Queen. And Eugenie recommended me to Pierce, her brother, who was briefly a photographer, but now is a big-time set designer and does a lot of stuff for Vanity Fair. And she recommended me to him, and suddenly I was doing my own celebrity shoots. My first big celebrity shoot was back-to-back shoots with Pierce one day, one with Ron Livingston when he had been in Sex and the City and just broken up with her on a Post-it. And one with like Campbell Scott. And then just the work kept coming. And then a photographer who I had assisted on jobs with, Andrew Eccles, called me up and asked me to do something, or was it the publicist? Anyway, I did a shoot with Blondie, Debbie Harry, and the rest of the band Blondie. It was like my first big shoot. Sorry, I thought that was on silent. My phone.
Oh, that's fine.
My first big shoot, my first huge celebrity shoot was with Debbie Harry and Blondie. Andrew Eccles gave me that opportunity. It was amazing. Yeah. I was freaking out. How do you style a style icon? But I did it, and I just thought, well, what would Inga do in this situation? Like, she'd probably like call up the showrooms or do this or do that. Like, I thought of like the person who I'd watched be such an amazing stylist. I just kind of did what she had done, and then of course, style-wise, put my spin on it. But you only know what you learn. And that's why when everyone's like, so many people come to me, how do I become a stylist? How do I become a stylist? I'm like, you have to assist a stylist. Like, it'd be great if you could figure out how to do it on your own. But the real way to do it is by watching and learning and being there. Because you learn what to do and what not to do, So yes, somehow all that came around to some question that you asked at some point.
Well, do you have a preference? I mean, this is more of a discussion thing, but like, I clearly have a preference seemingly in my work between shooting men or women, men or women. I shoot men 98% of the time. Yes. Mainly because my vibe matches theirs. I kind of know how to make dudes look cool, or and make it look authentic or
I mean,
whatever.
that's what that is. I was thinking about like our similarities, and I do think, I joke, but it's, every joke has an element of seriousness. I have one talent, and it's to make people look sexy.
Yeah.
Usually that means cool.
Yeah.
For the women, beautiful. For both men and women, badass.
Yeah.
And that is where I think we get along, is that we make people look cool.
Yeah.
You find that thing that's cool about them and bring it out, or sexy, or
I've
whatever.
been told that many times. You
Yes.
find that kink in there and you know how to draw it out and make
Yes.
it and expose it. Do you have a preference? I know
No.
I know you love both. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like, both have to be completely different.
Yes.
In my opinion, when I deal with women artists, it almost becomes less about the photographer, more about the glam. And when I say glam, I mean the whole package.
Yes.
Hair,
Well,
makeup.
because there's so much
Yes.
more that goes into it for a
Yes.
woman, and there are a lot of pressures on female artists that the men just don't have. Like, everyone wants to look good, but for women, there's so much. Everything. It's a whole different ball game with women. The hair has to be perfect, the makeup has to be perfect, the clothes have to be perfect, or they feel that they have to. They don't have, and they have to feel confident about it all. There's so many more moving pieces.
Yeah, and you know
In
how
a
fast
shoot for
I
a
like to
female.
move.
Yeah.
I like to move quick, keep it vibing, and
But there might be a creative director being like, but the hair, the
Yes,
hair, or
yes,
even the hairstylist is like, the hair, like the
Absolutely.
one little piece.
absolutely.
There's just, even me getting ready today, I had to put on makeup. Like, you probably didn't know who I was when I walked in the door, because normally I see you starting at
That is true.
7 in the
Yes,
morning. Like,
yes.
we've traveled the day before. I'm in, coveralls or something, and no makeup, and my hair back. And, today I was like, oh crap, I'm going to be on camera. I have to put on makeup. Like, just to think that the women have to deal with that to the nth degree. And it can't be that they slap on makeup. It's they have to sit 3 hours in a makeup chair, getting extensions, this and that. There's a whole other world of the glam that, I could get into a philosophical thing about that whole thing. Like, yes, you want to look good and beautiful, but there's also pressure to look good and beautiful.
Yeah.
So it's very different. I love both. I would get tired of only styling one sex.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's very refreshing to get to do fun, exciting, different things with a woman after dressing like 10 men in a row.
Yeah.
But then there's also a lot of, sometimes there's more cooks in the kitchen, especially with the major labels. So many people make sure she does this, make sure. And then everybody has their insecurities. They all talk to me about them. Mm-hmm. Men have a lot of them too. Women have a lot of them. They just have more pressure put on to look a certain way. And so I think if I only worked with women, I would then probably be too stressed out all the time about like, oh, is everything like, it's not just about them looking and feeling fabulous. Mm-hmm. There's so much more that I have nothing to do with the hair and the makeup and the whole team analyzing things. And there's so much pressure put on female artists to look a certain way. It's really if I think about it too much, it'll depress me. So instead, what I do and what I think my job is and what I feel like my role as a person and a stylist is to help them not only look, but feel their absolute best. Like, if they look amazing, but they don't feel confident, I won't let them wear something. Like, they have to get that. They have to feel like the very best version of themselves. And with my clients, we develop this trust over the years. Sometimes it's after one fitting, they're like, oh my gosh, Katy, you made me feel more confident and look better than I ever have.
You clicked. What you brought to them vibed with what they haven't seen them look before, and now they find light bulbs go off in their mind, and the floodgates are open.
And it takes a stress off them too, because they're like, I'm not so worried about if I'm going to look good on the red carpet, because I know you're going to make me look good on the red carpet.
Let's get the closet outfitted with the new stuff or whatever. Get us stuff where I can just quick and go.
I love when I reach that point with a client, when that happens, when they are just like, I feel better than I ever have. Thank you. Or, and then you reach the point where you're a few years in and they're like, I kind of had this idea, but just run with it because I know whatever you come up with is going to be even better. And and then you get into the fitting, and people who really let me run with things and get more creative, that's the most fun, and who have the confidence in me and the trust. Like once that trust is established, it's really amazing, and I really appreciate it.
Sure. I wear trust. I wear repeat business like you have. You and I have a pretty good, solid repeat roster.
Yes.
And I do wear that like a badge of honor, because that says you are elevating them, if not your work, beyond the creative. It's
it makes
the business
you feel
side. It's
valued, and to know you're helping someone like feel amazing on some of the most important days of their career.
And vulnerable too.
And vulnerable. That's such vulnerability. I mean, there's times when it's just been me and an artist in a weird backstage, offstage little like curtains like this, and you're in a little box waiting for them to make this secret entrance
into something huge.
And they're about to find out if they got the award they've wanted all their life or not.
Oh yeah.
I've been with people on the best nights of their life. I've been with people on the most disappointing nights of their life. I've seen people's careers take off from just Luke Combs from, 6 years ago, or maybe was it 7? Yeah, when he had one song on the radio and was living in a little apartment near the airport. Yeah. To now, to being with him at the Grammys, from Eric Church before Chief came out, and seeing that whole growth and then the change, and, it's been wild, And then I've also been with some people when their careers were like on the slowing down end, or speeding up and then kind of stalling and changing.
Or reinventing.
Like I've seen kind of every version of here in Nashville, the music business.
Yeah, I have too. I mean, we have very similar parallels for sure.
And it's it's a difficult business.
Oh yeah.
But they create those things that, mean so much to us, like songs that, some of them are going to live forever.
Something that just says live forever. Let's flash back just a little bit to someone who, believe it or not, I've never worked with, never shook his hand or said hello to. Yet everyone who works with this gentleman, says that we would get along famously, and that is Eric Church. It's Chief. So I am also think I would be a good fit for him. What is he like? What's it like styling him? I mean, didn't you have like for the Springsteen video, right? The American flag that kind of like that one.
The flag scarf.
And
that was a good moment of trust.
Yeah. You needed a layer, a little color, a little splash on top of the black or whatever he was. Yeah.
And it was, thank you for remembering. That was like, people still come to me asking for what is my flag scarf? And I tell them, I can't just come up with your flag scarf. This has to happen organically. It happens, something really like an iconic style piece for you is going to come out of the right moment with the right song and the right video, the right photo shoot where we need something and it makes sense for you. That was, Eric and I had been working together for about a year. I was still mainly in New York City. He was one of my first country singer clients, but I was starting to come back to Nashville more. And we were, I think Springsteen, born in the USA. Yep. I think the flag. I happened to be born on the 4th of July, so I always had kind of an affinity to
American culture.
And loved John Varvatos, of course, loved Danny Clinch.
There you go. It's tying in. Back. Yeah, it's all tying in.
And when I got to go actually meet John Varvatos and tell him all this last year, it was amazing.
Wow. That's
of course,
awesome.
He doesn't own the flag scarf. So there's a million different flag scarves made, and now Eric makes his own flag scarves. But it was like to be able to tell John, you were such an amazing part of my career. Yeah. And to let him know also that I got to style Zac Brown Band, who until then had never had a stylist other than John. He wasn't their stylist. He was the designer who dressed them, but he would actually go to set and dress them. And when I found that out, that was very daunting because I was like, wait, you've only been dressed by John Barbados himself.
Hello.
And now I have to do it. So to get to meet John and like be like, you were so important in my career, and this is how, even all the Danny Clinch stuff, all those ad campaigns, like, you know, the Iggy Pop stuff, everything. And it was all because of John.
Yeah.
So
I was able to tell my idol how important we had a full circle to.
Yes.
Kevin Kerslick, and it was at Home Depot in Marina Del Rey, my idol. And, you know, we met at Home Depot, and he was asking me questions about my trajectory. I had launched into the pop punk era. And it was just, when he was asking me, I was like, I got to tell him how important he was. I interned for him, but anyway, I digress.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yes,
though,
I was going to say,
to...
that's why I want to say it was, I bet that was one of the top 5 notches in your career of like, wow, looking back, that's a highlight.
And I just happened to walk into he had a clothing line for a little while after he sold his company called On This Day. And I happened to walk into the store, and he happened to be in there. And I was like, oh my God, John Barbados is actually here at his new clothing store. You know, oh my gosh, I have to tell him, you know, like, and I'm like, be cool.
Be cool. Be cool.
And I also bought my first denim shirt ever, like the country stylist who didn't own a denim shirt. And I bought it from John. But to go back to Chief, to Eric, we'd been working with each other for like a year. Trust had developed, and it was, you know, Springsteen, and I just had pulled the flag scarf. Barbados had just come out with the flag scarf. And believe it or not, scarf was kind of like crazy fashion-y for a dude in country music back then. And I was like, I know this is kind of weird.
I might have seen it once or twice, but
yeah, like this is a little different, but, and I pulled it out and I was like, you know, let's just try it. And he goes, let's do it. Put it on. And that was it. And now like 12, 13 years later, I'll go to an arena and half the people in the damn arena will be wearing a flag scarf.
Is he a man of few words?
Yes.
And what he says is what he, you know, he stands by what he says, and it doesn't need to be. He's
a total introvert.
No long form.
Yeah. I mean, he can be, but you know, maybe a little whiskey on the bus, and you know, he'll wax poetic, but he is pretty darn introverted. He doesn't want to spend too much time thinking about clothes. Okay. You know, it's like sometimes I kind of have to force him. You know, I'm like, we have to do this.
Sure. But you have that relationship.
We need 10 looks.
He listens to you. Yeah. Okay.
There's a trust, but a lot of times I'm just wrangling him, being like, come on, let's look at some jackets.
And you know when he's hitting that gear where it's like, okay, I got to wrap it up.
Yes. And I know also what's really one of the coolest things to see with him or with any artist. And I remember seeing it for the first time when I was an assistant with Catherine Zeta-Jones. Okay. She put on a gown. She looked in the mirror. And she became Catherine Zeta-Jones, the movie star. And I saw it happen in the mirror. And that was the gown. Like,
I know what you mean.
It was a moment.
She knew her eyes, her persona.
Yes, her body language. She looked at herself.
Wow.
And I started noticing that. I remember one of the first times we did like a leather jacket on Eric. He looked at himself in the mirror, and I could tell he felt like a badass. And I've learned to notice that with new artists who are like trying. I love working with brand new artists who are trying to figure out their style and helping them figure out what it is. And to see someone who never really liked clothes before, didn't want to think about fashion. Oh, also, I think my area of expertise is dudes who don't want stylists, who don't want a stylist, who don't want to think about clothes, who don't like fashion. Somehow, I end up getting all of them as clients.
Okay.
Let's talk about one of our friends, Kip Moore. That's the first time I worked with you, I think it was with Kip. Yeah, he'd be like, no, I'm going to wear this t-shirt for all 10 shots. And I was like, well,
if a t-shirt, might just take that shirt off.
Or the shirt off, which is great. We can put him in a pool of water. It'll be great.
We got. I can see him being like maybe
Katy,
a new pair of jeans or something. You know, I mean, I'll wear those or something.
So I always seem to get the guys who don't want to do fittings, who don't want to try on clothes, who don't like fashion, and then in the end, they end up appreciating looking good in their clothes and feeling good in their clothes.
Because of what you've brought them.
Because of me. No, because of, because of what I've brought them, because of how it makes them feel. Like once
it's no different than what I do.
Yeah. Once they feel like a badass, once they feel confident, they're like, okay, I still don't like trying on clothes, but I see that I have to do it every once in a while now because I know we have to go do the shoot, or I know we have to do this red carpet. Or like, Luke, who didn't want a stylist, didn't give a crap about clothes. And then now, is he ever like, can't wait for a fitting with Katy? No. But he actually does like picking fabrics for a custom suit. Like when he puts on something that's custom made and fits really well, he's like, this is actually really good,
Okay.
None of them. I mean, there's sometimes Eric sees me and literally runs away.
Really?
But then I reel him in and I'm like, let's just try on some jackets, But in the end, the final product is a person feeling confident and, looking good, looking cool, which they have to do. It's not the most important part, but it's part of the career of being an artist.
Do stylists like yourself, are they trademarked, or do you feel like you have a style of yourself in your work that separates you from another stylist? Again, very similar parallels to being a photographer. Are you a photographer? I mean, a bazillion photographers.
Yes.
What you end up trying to do your whole career is define a style, more or less, and be known for that style, or to be rewarded for that style. Is that the same thing in the styling world as a stylist?
I think it's different. It's not as, I don't want to say pigeonholed, but there's a pigeonhole element to, I think there's a more distinct style of photography for really amazing photographers than there is a distinct type of styling. But I do think there is.
Because
I almost
didn't ask the question because I answered it right where you did. And then you just said, and that's why I asked it, because I know it's not so easily answered.
Yeah.
But two veterans that have been in this business a long time, I kind of just want to know from your perspective, because I don't deal with stylists that very much, except for when I see you on set.
Yeah. So you get hired for what people think your strengths are. I've been told, and earlier on, and it was one of the biggest compliments I felt that I had received at that point was, and it was about the men I dress, it was like, all of your clients, they don't look styled. They just look a little cooler than everyone else in the room.
A little hypier, yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, that's like a great compliment. If I have a style, it's maybe a little more effortless looking, not quite so fashiony, but it's really, especially when it comes to men and women, my style is to help people look like the very best version of themselves and give them a distinct style from their peers. And I get dressed, I get hired to dress all different body types too. So if it's like, and that comes full circle back to dressing myself with a hunk of plastic on my body. That is, I really do feel like it all comes back to that. Like
I think so.
Dressing all different body types, figuring out how to make every shape and size, from a 00 woman to a size 20 woman, from like, a 5'4" guy who wears a 38 regular jacket to a 6'4" guy who, might wear a 54 jacket, like and everything in between. And just helping them look like the very best version of themselves.
That's kind of where my work is, I mean, my style is, I like the word effortless. That's a word I use a lot.
Now, we all know it takes a lot of effort to get to that effortlessness.
Absolutely. You got to, do a lot to make something, the non-makeup look, the non-effortless look. Now, do you feel like your work, you've I wouldn't say conquered, but you've lived in the fashion world in the New York City, in the LA. You've been dealing in music with high-end celebrity actors and actresses. Do you see a transition? And explain. I don't even know if it's possible how that works to transition into television movies. I mean, I feel like someone like you wouldn't stop you.
So I used to think I wanted to go do costume design for a movie at some point. In fact, I go every year to Boston to dress a wonderful friend and acting client of mine, Alan Cumming. And he's just this amazing actor who's been in everything. He's had this career that spans decades. And we go and he's the host of Masterpiece Mystery. And he's like, I'm Alan Cumming, and this is Masterpiece Mystery. It's like a little stint he does every year. I dress him for it. And they would always hire this amazing woman to assist me in Boston, who was a great costume designer, who would be like the number 2 on huge Hollywood movies. And I'd be like, why are you assisting me? You know? And she's like, well, I love Alan, and in between movies, and I would always be like, I want to come work with you. I want to see what you do. Like, and she would talk to me about all these movies and the long days. And I knew how like the 14-hour days and everything. And she goes, Katy, you really don't want to do it. Like what you do is so much like, I'm trying to get out of it. She started like a yarn store, you know, but she'd always get pulled back into a big, like the female Ghostbusters or the Whitey Bulger movie.
Gone for 3 months.
Yes.
And we get to dabble.
Yes. So one of my assistants left to go work on Stranger Things, and now she's the head shopper on Stranger Things. And she's like, Katy, it's insane. Like the days are at least 12 hours. And we were, you know, it's like, she's like, I'm trying to figure out how to get out of it. Of course, to us people in our world, we're like, how cool would it be to do a movie, you know?
Yeah.
In reality, I used to think I wanted to dabble in that. I realize now I don't want to. I love our little mini movies. I love our music videos.
Yeah.
And I love to get to create a world, but now I'm not even asked to create the world. I'm usually just asked to dress the star, and someone else gets to create the rest of the world. And sometimes I'm like, but what about me? And they're like, there's no budget. And I'm like, but I want to create the world.
Yeah. You did for Michael Ray when we did Get Her Back, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
That was
I did.
fun. Now, I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
Is one of the things I'm impressed with you, not even really related to, I guess, our work, but something I'm also learning to embrace, and I think you are as well, and I'm stoked on it that we are doing that of our age, and that is social media.
Oh, I know.
I don't want...
I mean, does anyone really love it?
I don't want to have to do it. I understand that. And I fought that for the longest time.
I fought it for too long,
realized,
to my detriment.
Yeah, to my detriment. I realized if I'm going to keep working at the level that I want, I'm going to have to jump in and swim and learn this thing and really embrace it.
Yeah.
Embrace it tailored to what works for you.
Yes.
And I've been sitting back, I've been watching what makes me cringe on these things and this. I definitely don't want to do that.
Neither of us are going to be dancing.
Exactly. So, and I'm really impressed with you. And I'm now learning, flash forward an hour now, you kind of were always doing it. Not with a cell phone, but you were doing the newspaper, the newsletters and the photo. It was all, I feel like when I see your stuff, you're just kind of doing an extension of what you did back in Hendersonville. Is that true at all?
I like that. That was very like art history student of you to like tie everything together. I don't think so.
Well, there's this fearlessness to you that you just kind of went at everything and you're not shying from.
But that's what you have to do what we do. You just have to go for it because there's no playbook. There's no, you just...
Like,
and you
honestly,
take any
a
opportunity
stylist. Let's look at it. A stylist that does not embrace social media. They're just the unsung hero of that star's vibe, their thing, and it doesn't take any. Shouldn't say that. It takes a lot, but it does take some ingenuity for you to say, okay, well, you clearly love what you do. And I think that's our superpower.
Yes.
Is that we're still in this game and we love it like we did back in the day.
Because I know people are like, I can't wait to get out of this. I just want to buy a bunch of houses and be a landlord. And I'm like, really?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm like, I actually like playing dress up. Now, is it always fun and games? No. Did the packages not show up? Does the client change their mind? Does what happened just now? Does the custom-made piece end up with the wrong fabric on the lapel and you're freaking out trying to get another option last minute because the custom-made piece didn't come out right? Are there situations where there's all kinds of personalities and you have to deal with so much bullshit? But at the end of the day, I still love it.
Yeah.
Now, social media, I don't love. Am I better about it sometimes than others? It's really hard to be focusing on the client, which is my focus, but also try to be doing social media at the same time.
At least to capture something so you can use it later.
And it's usually, I repost a lot of my clients' stuff, and a lot of it is just like, a new record came out.
Sure.
Here, I styled the cover.
But are they the screenshot or videos of you in your backyard with the fire pit?
Yes.
Burning
I have
jeans.
done that.
See, that's cool. Like when you were telling that story of burning Parker McCollum's jeans for Dustin's video, I'm like,
so I should probably
cool.
repost that. Hopefully it'll win. So that video is up for the ACM award, but by the time this comes out, hopefully it will have won. And I should probably repost that.
Yes, get it.
But it's so hard to get that. Like when you're in the middle of like 5 jobs at once and you have a life and I have an 11-year-old daughter. Like I have a life but yet my life is also my clients. My clients will be texting me at 2 and 3 in the morning. I do put my phone on silent, but
I know, but we are doctors on steroids. We are on call
24/7, and I turn my phone off when I need to. But also when someone really needs you, they need you. And let's be honest, we want them to need us because then we have a career, if they don't know what to wear when they're leaving their house tomorrow and they need to ask me and I need to go through my phone and send a picture of wear this, I will do it. We might get paid per project or by the day, but you're on call. And that's why it's also important to work with people you actually like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, some you're going to like more than others. But there are some people who I will take their call no matter what I'm doing because I just love them so much. Yeah. And maybe it's a style thing they need, or maybe they're just calling to say hello, which some of my clients just do. I thought of you because blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Or, I had this idea and we don't even have a project coming up, but I want to talk to you about it. Let's talk about Japanese mending techniques, and I'm like, wait, I learn stuff from my clients, especially the ones that are so creative and who do randomly text and call me about things when we're not in the middle of a project. That's sometimes when I learn the most because they're interested in something that has to do with fashion or style. And they're like, I just want to keep this in our back pocket for the next shoot. And I'm like, okay, make a note in my notebook, take a couple of screenshots, and then maybe you go back to it a year later.
I have one final question that I want to lean on because it's important to me. I'm a father. 2 young boys. It's how do you manage an intense career while also being an attentive parent? Also, you want your daughter, my sons, to see you passionate, in love with what you do, because I think fulfilled, and you really going and taking hardships. To the teeth, in the shins, and fighting through it.
You've brought your sons to set before.
Absolutely, I do. They're learning. They're going to learn. Yep. I mean, they get older and they can lift trash properly. They're going to be starting with that.
Yes.
But, Bobby Bones asked me on his podcast, and it caught me off guard. He was like, well, would you want your sons to follow in your footsteps? And it was like, oh, family. And I love my answer and it's, yes, because I don't feel truly like I work. I don't. I love it so much, and that does not take away. I can do 5 hours of podcasts of my hardships of getting to where I've got in detail. It doesn't mean it's easy, but at the end of it, man, if he could do it and I can teach him and stuff like that, wow, what. I do feel slightly empowered through my journey. All that to be said, how do you feel about that with your daughter?
Well, what this just made me think was we are so lucky. And I know luck is, what do they say? We're opportunity and hard work, or whatever. We're so lucky that we do, what we do, we're so lucky to get to do it.
Absolutely.
It is so much fun. It is also very stressful. We've been on sets where everything was going wrong and we're, getting yelled at by the owner of the
10
location.
10 minutes to go and it's raining.
And it's pouring down rain.
And it's a
rain
stunt.
is not part of this.
No.
Rain was not supposed to be part of the shoot, and there's so much going on, and everything sucks. And everything is falling apart. and we're over budget and we're over time.
Yeah.
And oh my God, the dress just ripped in half, everything. I mean, there's, but we are so lucky because I get to play dress up for a living. You get to play movie maker for a living, and I would love Stella to do what I do. She would think it's cool too. I also want her to be a chiropractor. So because when my chiropractors get too old to work on me.
I see your motives.
But I want her to do whatever she wants to do that's going to make her happy. And my parents gave me that frame of mind and that opportunity too. Did they want me to be a music publisher and take over my dad's publishing and do it? Yes. But when I said, this is not what I want to do, I want to go do, to LA. They're like,
advocated for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
And even though my mom said, okay, really? You graduated from Emory 3 years ago and you're a bartender and you're working for free at some show called Sex and the City. Is this porn?
I didn't think about that when it first came out. Wow.
But she still said, you have to do what you're going to do, but don't expect any help from me anymore. But no, I mean, she was very generous. But, there was a point she was like, okay, I might help pay for your health insurance, but like, that's it. You can't be, but yet she encouraged me to follow my dream. I mean, she had married a songwriter, for God's sake, so, I would love Stella to do this if it would make her happy. She has shown some interest in it. Mm-hmm. She sometimes likes to help unpack boxes and hang up clothes. Cool. But whatever she wants to do, I want to encourage her to do anything creative that she wants to do. Mm-hmm. Or if she ends up wanting to be an accountant, I will question that, but her personality does not fit that of an accountant. But I think she's a very creative soul, and I'm going to encourage her to follow those dreams, whatever they may be. Yeah. Even if I want a free chiropractor for the rest of my life.
I hear such an awesome story, or just the journey that you've taken to here that I did not know. Mm-hmm. It's enlightening for me, honestly, because I guess I know what I know.
But we don't get to do this. We never get to do this. It's always about the artist and the set, and we have to go. And do you like this? Which do you like better? Well, I think this, I think that. Okay, let's do it.
Of all the guests, I think this is 21. You're the 21st guest. Oh, wow. I can honestly say, of all of them, and knowing a good deal of them, this is the one that I've discovered everything about you. Not everything. So many cool things. Like your whole career.
There's so much you don't know.
Well, no, I mean it's it's quite the journey.
Yeah, like it was a journey. Yeah, and then I didn't even I just started coming home to dress country singers because I thought, well, I'm dressing celebrities in New York. Maybe I could get paid to go home and visit my family.
That's how it started here.
Yep.
Who was your first country star here?
My first country singer client is now one of my dearest friends. Her name is Carolyn Dawn Johnson. She is from Canada, and she had a couple of #1 hits, and she's won Junos and ACMs and CCMAs, but she's also a songwriter, and now she's more in her artist-writer part of her career. Okay. And she's one of my dearest friends in the world, but she was on Sony at the time. And then my first sort of then I guess the second, Wade Hunt, who was head of creative at Sony, hired me for her, then hired me for, what's his name? Oh gosh, I just forgot his name. Then he hired me for Pat Green, which was the first time I shot with Danny Clinch. So it was Carolyn. Oh, then it was Chuck Wicks. Mm. Then it was Pat Green. And then Joanna Card, I met her over at Capitol. She hired me for Walker Hayes and liked what I did with him, and then hired me for Eric Church. Okay. So those were kind of I think those were my first 5 country singer clients. Sure. And then Eric, being so loyal and an amazing collaborator, it's now been 13 years. Mm. And he was one of my very first country singer clients.
That's crazy. Yeah. That says a lot about you guys. Now, to the DMs that you may get from aspiring stylists out there.
That's why I'm so happy we did this, because I get so many, I can't answer them all, and I try to. And occasionally, if I like doing invoices and really don't want to really do them, and someone will DM me and they'll go, can I call you? And I mean, this hasn't happened for a couple of years, but I'll be like, call me right now.
Yeah,
I know you're doing it. And I'll just
what would be your #1 piece of advice? for them. I mean, something.
Yes.
I mean, I love hearing your journey. So it's
Assist a stylist. That is the number one. I've only heard of one stylist ever who never assisted another stylist. And before I assisted a stylist, I did some jobs where like I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know, like I didn't have a steamer. I didn't have the proper rolling rack. Like they gave me a budget. It was for Sirius satellite radio when it was this new thing called satellite radio. And I showed up and they're like, where's the rest of the clothes? I'm like, have them all here. And I was like, well, the budget was like $200 per person. So like I had $200 of the clothes per person. Like I had no idea that you needed like
Options.
a huge fold up rolling rack. You had a special steamer. You needed to have like, 5 to 10 options for each person. You had to return everything that wasn't used to fit into the bag. Like there were basic things I didn't know because I had just been doing shoots with my best friend. And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, I need to assist a stylist.
And learn the way.
Yeah.
Katy, thank you so much. This was awesome. Honestly.
It was so much fun. Now I want to interview you, but I don't have a podcast because now I feel like I have just enough snippets to be like, Spidey, I need to know this, and this.
Yeah, there's definitely
so we
some
need to
untold
reverse.
stories.
We need to reverse the podcast
Anytime.
when I get a podcast, which I'm not planning on doing. But you never know.
You like that mug?
Mm-hmm.
Little branding?
Does it have it on this side? Yes, it does. It has it on this side too, along with my lipstick. That was fun.
Thank you so much.